Well, good day and welcome to SOP, Save Our Planet. My name is Gary Willing. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. Now, I always like to do two things, and it's going to be quick, I promise, before I start the video. The first is recommend to whoever wants to know more about this information, to whoever wants to see if this information may be true or not, I'm recommending that you look into this information a little bit further. And you can do that however you want to do it, but I do recommend checking out the Share International site. Link is at the very top of the description portion of these videos to get really good background information about what I'm talking about. But if you look at some of the other ones, at least the other ones right below that link, those two take you to other YouTube pages that talk about this information in some way and that are wonderful as well. So check those out as well. And then the next thing is you can, if you want, just listen and just be an active listener and listen to these videos. That's totally fine. I totally get it. But I'm hoping that you join the discussion. And when you do, that oftentimes gives me something to talk about in the next video, something for us to learn based on your questions. So ask a question. Put a question in the comment section. I'll try to answer it in the next video. If you have a comment you want to ask me, or a comment you want to say, just post a comment or email me, searchforscience@mail.com. Okay, now, in the last couple of videos that I put up, they were basically centered around people wanting to know the identity of Maitreya. It's been said by Benjamin Creme that Maitreya is already giving interviews on TV. It was also said by Ben and Benjamin Creme's master that the masters are already starting to retrace their steps back into the everyday world. They're already starting to, some of them are already starting to enter major cities. Now, we won't know who they are until after Maitreya has declared himself on the day of declaration. So don't go around San Francisco or LA or New York asking people if they're a master, because they're not gonna be one. But they're there, hidden away in plain sight, and will eventually be known for who they are not long after Maitreya is declared as Maitreya on the day of declaration. But I wanted to take stock kind of where we're at as a humanity, where we're at in terms of what I think. And this is only my opinion, okay? So this isn't coming from a higher source. This is really just my opinion on what I think is going to happen over the next few years, maybe a decade, okay? Because right now, the world is deeply divided, of course, right? That is a huge problem. Politically, right-left politics, they're not getting along. Now it's even getting to the point where they're declaring their hatred toward one another, which it's okay not to get along. It's okay not to agree with each other. But now that it's turning into and kind of festering into this hatred of each other, it could get worse before it gets better. I'm just being honest. I'm hoping that it isn't, but that's where we're at. Between nations is becoming more and more tense based on the foreign policy of this current presidential administration. Hands down is creating tension with these tariffs, with levying tariffs on this country and threatening that country and threatening to take over this country and those kind of things. It's destabilizing the relative peace. It is a relative peace, but it is destabilizing whatever peace we had by this posturing that the United States, especially under the Trump administration, is doing. And it's very clear the danger that it's presenting to the world. It's very clear that it's postponing what needs to happen, of course, and it's endangering and jeopardizing the future of humanity. It is. That's the political side of it. Economically, things are really consolidating more and more into the hands of these super rich. And they're unwilling to give up any of their money to the poor, obviously. The sad thing is that for the most part, especially here in the United States, we as a people idolize those people. We resent the living hell out of them, but at the same time, we idolize them. We want to hear what they have to say. We want any kind of information that they're going to give us that's going to help us get to where they're at, right? And compete against each other. And that's really why we listen to these idiots. But we're listening to them, and that's a problem because a lot of what they're speaking is not helpful. And a lot of what they're speaking is actually making things worse, to be honest. Then you look at the environment. Huge problem. We're harming the environment in ways that we don't even realize. So we talk about global warming. It's an issue. Some side, of the political aisle don't think it's an issue, don't think it's a problem, thinks it's of natural causes. The other thinks it's all of humanity doing this, and it's not of natural causes. Well, the funny thing is that the masters will tell us that both sides are right and both sides are not so right. Where the right is correct on their view that it is of natural causes is about 20% of it is caused by natural causes, by the natural heating up of the atmosphere based on cyclical changes in the environment and so forth. The 80% is man-made, so that's where the left is getting it right. Both political arms of the same party are spewing out the same lie, spewing out different lies, but they're lying to our people, and it's jeopardizing also the future of humanity because we haven't solved that problem. One side is saying it's not a problem, even though they clearly see that pollution is an issue. They're just getting paid by these super PACs and these corporations to keep their mouth shut and to lie to the people and placate the people and keep them, keep everything the same. The other side is lying to the people, saying they're going to take decisive and definitive action to solve the problem, and they don't do anything when they get in power because of the fact that they're getting bought off by the same greedy corporations and super PACs. So we're in the same situation, okay? Now, I'm not trying to paint the situation that it's hopeless, because there is a tremendous amount of hope out there. This is just my own personal opinions on what's going on. So that's the political divisions, economic divisions, and the environment. Okay, and then there's of course other problems. There's potential for war, and there's starvation, and there's injustice, and those are huge issues that humanity has to solve, of course. But individually, what I've been seeing, I see it all the time on the internet because I'm on YouTube all the time. I hear it from my friends and my coworkers. We are competing at such a destructive rate between each other that we literally don't trust anything anymore. The governments have lied to us for so long that we don't even trust our own governments. We think our own governments are perpetrating nefarious actions on their own people. Whether they are or they're not remains to be seen, but the distrust is there, and that distrust will fester into something if it's not taken care of. Now, I put all these conspiracies, all these people who are poisoning the well by their throwing in their theories, whether they're right or wrong, but generating fear, I really put the responsibility and accountability of all that at the feet of every government that has perpetrated lies on their people for as long as they have. We don't trust our government. We think our government is doing everything against us because time and time and time again, they've done nothing but lie to us. So it's natural, it's understandable that we would distrust them. I think it's a necessary technological development that will eventually free humanity up in so many ways, but initially, because of the commercialized environment, will only make things worse until we see the need to step away from commercialization and try the principle of sharing, bring about trust, is AI. It will generate more distrust. You won't be able to trust a video coming from somebody that you know and you trust at all. You won't even be able to trust a phone call. We don't trust phone calls from people anymore, even if they're coming from our own family sometimes. I've had to set up safe words with my family, for this very reason, because people have been duped by AI that they think they're talking to their relatives, of course, right? So it's no wonder people are just kind of shutting the doors and closing, locking the doors and shutting the windows and putting, the blinds up and, down or whatever, and not wanting to interact with anybody anymore. It's understandable. And in this whole problem of the world that seems insurmountable, that just seems to be getting worse by the day, we have leaders that are not leaders. We have leaders that are totally inept. Totally. And this is all of them, without exception, that I see on a daily basis, whether they're in politics, economics, in technology, and whatever, are totally inept to the problems of the world and how to solve them. So, where does that leave us? Well, what I've been saying for so long, and I'm getting my information based off of Benjamin Crème, is that there is actually hope in the world. I talk about it in every video. I usually don't have such a dark video, or at least start off so dark. Sorry, but we got to plant our flag somewhere, and this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of plant our feet where we're at today so we can see as time progresses, right? It might get worse before it gets better. I'm not saying it's going to just be a progressive, way up there. But here's what I'm seeing, okay? And here's my own personal opinion, what I think is going to happen over the next 5 years. What I'm starting to see is a little opening, just a little tiny opening in the hearts of some people in the media, in our government, that I never expected to see. And I've mentioned their names before, and these are the most prominent ones, but there are other ones that are starting to speak out in a little ways. They're starting to speak out about injustices. They're starting to speak out and speak in a way that I'm starting to think that their heart might be opening it up. And it's coming from people that I didn't agree with at all about very much. So I'm being sincere when I'm saying this, okay? Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and others. And even before he died, Charlie Kirk, as some of the nasty things that he said when he was alive, he was starting to change his tune and starting to see some of the injustices in places such as Gaza and so forth. And it was the opening up of some of these people whose hearts were really calcified in so many ways and not open to the plight and to the suffering of their fellow man. But it was just starting to happen. And it is just starting to happen. And I think it's a miracle. I would say a minor miracle, but it is a miracle that I'm seeing. So what I think is going to happen is more and more, as the light starts to shed on some of the problems like what's going on in Gaza, which I think is a direct result of the energetic influence of Maitreya on the hearts of those people who I've just spoke. Okay, they don't understand it. They would not believe in any way, shape, or form about what I'm saying about Maitreya. But I think it's the energy of Maitreya that's starting to open their hearts. They represent millions of people who that experience is happening to right now. We're also seeing on the political left more and more marches in protest against what they see as an injustice in our government. People are not just sitting back and doing nothing. They also are being affected and influenced by the energy of Maitreya. It will only strengthen as things get worse, and expect it to get worse. Be prepared for things to get worse, but also be prepared. And this is where somebody asked me a long time ago, well, how do I help SOP save the planet? You say it at the end of every video. How you can help SOP save the planet is to not fall into the fear out there, and certainly don't generate the fear, but to express hope. Even if you don't believe it as much as I do, right? To express a little bit of hope can actually sustain somebody more than you realize, to be honest. And you won't know how if you sustain them and give them a little bit of hope, that they might say it to somebody else and say it to somebody else that could help them too. And that is one way you can help SOP save our planet. But I do think Maitreya is currently waiting on the global economies to collapse, and that will very much so collapse. It's teetered on the edge in the 80s. It went way down in the late 2007, 2008, 2009, in that area time frame, and will continue to go down and really just collapse totally. And I think it was going to collapse under Trump's watch, to be honest with you. And of course, he'll blame everybody else. He'll blame Obama. He'll blame Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter, Roosevelt, and of course his favorite boogeyman. He's going to blame Biden on everything. And I honestly don't even think, and those people who listen to these videos know I have absolutely no political love for that man. But I can say, and it's hard for me to say it, when the economies do collapse on his watch, which I think they will, I could be wrong, but I think they will collapse on his watch, that he isn't even to blame for it, as much as the left will try to pin it on him, because it's an inevitability. It doesn't matter if Superman was in the White House, we would still have the economies collapse. We are moving in more and more under the light of Aquarius, farther and farther away under the light of Pisces, and therefore those economic structures that were built based on the energies of Pisces are waning, and it's going to cause the system to collapse eventually. And we can see it. It's, there's huge swings now, And we'll start to see huge point losses, and then it'll go up, and it'll swing, and it'll just swing and swing and swing, and then it'll eventually hit the rock. That rock's going to hit the floor just one too many times, and it's going to go down and down and down and down. And more people are going to clamor looking for our governments for help, and they're not going to find it. But I think we're a little bit more prepared now than we were even just in 2008, because the hearts of humanity are starting to open up more than they were then, and way more than they were in the 1988. So again, and then what I also see will happen, and again, this is just my opinion, is then more and more people will start to hear and recognize Maitreya for who he is. There'll be more and more discussion about who and what he is, what he's saying. People will ponder more on it. They will be talking about it amongst their friends. And as they say in the internet now, a lot of what he says will start to go viral. The opposition to what he's saying will try to match those who are for him too, which will be a huge wave of progression into the area of where we need to go in terms of the priorities of Maitreya, the need for peace, the need to bring about sharing. There'll be more and more people talking about that, more and more and more. I don't think the governments necessarily at this point will have started the principle of sharing, but they will at least start to be murmurs of it amongst our world leaders. Maybe not in public, in private, but globally, more and more people will see and trust what Maitreya is saying as the solution to our problems, which is the principle of sharing, based on the fact that financially we will be hurting. Every one of us won't be able to survive this collapse of the economic system. Then there will come a point where Maitreya will be asked, well, let me go back. It will come to a point where we will want to hear what Maitreya has to say. Perhaps the news media will start to shut him down, and then the mainstream news media won't have as much interest in what he's saying because he's going against their corrupt sense of sensibilities, right? But we will demand from our media him an opportunity to speak all at one time, and they won't be able to resist it for long. And he will be asked by the media to give a press conference. On that day, the day of declaration, will be looked at for as long as we're on this planet as the single most, for lack of a better word, incredible day that has ever happened or will ever happen. Because it will be a day that will signal to future generations us finally stepping away from the edge. And as Ben's master said in one of these articles, we have no idea how close we are to killing ourselves. And the strain that it's putting on these masters to keep it from happening, the strain that it's putting on the space brothers flying around in our atmosphere, keeping us alive. We have no clue how close we are to killing ourselves now. But we have help, and we have been helped, and we will, as Maitreya says, get through this. So, when that day of declaration happens, it's been said that he will speak to all of us above the age of 14 inwardly in our own head. We'll hear his language. We'll hear what he has to say in our own language, in our own head. And it will be at that time we'll feel his love even physically. Maitreya says it will be as if he embraces all of humanity at one time. And then there'll be hundreds upon hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people who are cured from all sorts of ailments and illnesses and diseases and afflictions. And as Ben always said at the end of every one of his lectures, those three ways, and only those three ways, will we know that that man, and only that man, is Maitreya, the world teacher. After that, there will be a time, and it won't be very long, it will just be a few days, where people won't want what happened to end. And as Ben's master so eloquently put in one of his articles, it will be as if people are walking on eggshells for a while. We'll all know what happened. We'll all have felt what happened. We'll all have felt at one time just what it means to be one family for the first time in our lives. Some of us will start to feel the purpose in our lives. We'll start to feel that we actually matter. And the vision that was given to Benjamin Creme was People will be running down the streets crying after this because they will feel for the first time that their life actually mattered. And you might be one of those people. You don't know. If you don't feel like your life matters, you might. But we'll be healed in so many ways. And then after that little bit of time, Maitreya and humanity and all of us are going to go to work to solve the problem of the environment. How do we bring about the principle of sharing? What do we do? And there'll be many ways tried and put forward, and a lot of times it will fail. But Maitreya will suggest that a agency within the United Nations be created, whose sole purpose is the redistribution of the goods and food around the world, so that it will end hunger overnight. Justice will start to take place. People will feel more content. People will start to trust one another more. Nations will start to trust one another more. Can you imagine? For as little as we trust one another today, it will be the exact opposite in the very, very, very near future. We'll trust one another. Nations will start to trust based on this. Now, not all nations will participate in the principle of sharing right away. I do think, and again, this is my own humble opinion, I do think the United States will be the last of all the nations to try it. But eventually, even the political will from the people in this country will be so great that even somebody like Donald Trump won't be able to put a wall up forever. It will happen. And then we'll see transformation sweep across this world in such a way that we can't even imagine at this time. And as this goes on, more and more of these masters will be introduced to us, starting first, I think, with the master Jesus, who will then be asked by the churches to answer some of their questions and some of the confusion that they've had about their scriptures and so forth. Some may trust him, some may not. But more and more people, even in the Christian world, will start to listen to who they think may or may not be Jesus, but start to listen to him because of what he has to say about their own scriptures and the truth about what's written in the Bible, what was supposed to be left in the Bible and was taken out, and what was put in there that really is creating nothing but confusion in their minds and so forth. But he will also really bring the purpose of the churches to where it needs to be, which is teaching the people the laws of life, which they haven't done, really, and helping to heal the people, which they've done little to nothing either. And more the churches will start to become more in line with what they had intended originally to be, which are spiritual centers where people can come to be healed, to learn the laws of life, and also experience unity, not division. The economies of the world will look way different than they look today. Where nations will start to, the goods and services of the principle of sharing will start to take root, and we'll start to see the blossomings of justice and the blossomings of peace and trust. And then eventually love. And all throughout this time, maybe a few weeks, a month or so after Maitreya is out known for who he is, somebody's going to ask him about the reality of the Space Brothers. And he's going to lay it out there on the table what really the truth is about them, that we have never been alone in the universe. Even though for so long we've all felt that we've been totally isolated from everything in the universe. He'll tell us the truth that we are not going to destroy ourselves. These are not the end times as so many predicted. And also that these spiritual brothers and sisters coming from other planets from the higher humanity have been around us and circling our sun along with us the whole time. And they mean us no harm. And they're here to help us because they are also spiritual warriors too, fighting a spiritual battle, which is the hearts and souls of humanity. So then, not long after that, as we start to see these masters and start to trust them, we're going to ask them what is life like when we die, or do we die? And they're going to prove to us and show us the truth about reincarnation, that we actually do come back until we can become masters. And the fear and the misunderstanding and the confusion and all the misinformation about death and what happens at our passing and after our passing will come to light, and we'll know the truth about that. And then at some point, it might be in a few years, I know Benjamin Creme said that his master had told him that these scientists were already in incarnation, and this was maybe 15 years ago, 16 years ago when he said this. So they're probably either young adults or or something like that. Well, there will be a group of scientists in France, and they're going to be out of the country of France. Will discover in a lab, scientifically, the proof that we are souls in incarnation. They'll prove it. And then they'll be able to give those experiments to other scientists to prove in their labs. And then the whole thing is going to kick off, because then we'll know the reality of, are we alone in the universe or not? What happens when we die? And who and what are we really? Which is a soul. So we have some wonderful, wonderful things to be in store for us. But more than anything is we will start to experience, and most of us will experience this in our lifetimes at some point, what it means to live in a world with justice. What it means to live in a world where nobody goes hungry. What it means to live in a world where peace is starting to manifest. But I want to leave you with this thought. For all of those people who are listening to this, who are truly concerned about the problems of the world, don't know what to do, I'm going to suggest two things. I'm going to go back and I'm going to suggest again, get some background information on this information. Read about it. Read about the priorities of Maitreya. Meditate on it. Read some of the articles from Benjamin Creme's master. Get a sense of how these masters are going to teach us, and about also a better sense about the priorities of the teacher, and also get a better sense about really the need for peace and how important it is. 2, start to visualize within yourself what a world at peace would really look like. Not only for yourself, not only for your family, not only for your group of friends, but also for your country and for the whole world. What would it look like for you? And then ask yourself what you can do. Everybody's different. Ask what you can do. Start to visualize how you could help bring this about. And then between now and when the principle of sharing starts, which is not too long, start to talk about it with people in your life as a possibility for bringing about justice. People are talking about justice. People are talking about peace. More and more people are starting to be talking about their concerns for the environment. None of that's going to take place until the principle of sharing takes place, because that will bring about cooperation amongst groups of people, cooperations amongst nations. And it takes you talking about it to bring it to the attention of people. And you might be surprised at the reactions of the people in your life when you talk to them about it. I actually am starting to think that some of these people that I mentioned, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world, they actually might start talking about something to the effect of the principle of sharing, something to the effect of maybe nations should start to share some of the resources with other nations. It might actually come from somebody on the extreme right who brings it up. We are living in unprecedented and unpredictable times. But for certain, what you can count on is that we will get through this, that the problems of the world are not going to last forever, and we have within our capability as a humanity, we have it within our hands to solve those problems. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys, and have a great rest of your day. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.